Welcome to What's Going On, the weekly podcast and videocast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of What's Going On. I'm Pastor Katie here at First United Methodist, and I'm glad you could join me for this episode. We are in the midst of Advent, and we have a lot happening in the church, and so I'm just going to dive right into some of the various things that you can be a part of here at First United Methodist. So the first thing I want you to be a part of, or at least support, is not necessarily a church thing, but I think a great community thing, and that is the Parade of Lights here in Yankton is happening on this Thursday, and I will be there supporting the contact center. But I want to put a plug out that if there are people in our church that would like to see our church be a part of this parade and submit a float, I think that would be awesome. Part of the reason that we haven't is because I haven't had anybody express interest in doing that and kind of taking the lead on that, but I know that we have some creative people in our church, and I would love to support that. And so if that's something that you would like to do for next year, just come talk to me and let's get a plan together and make that happen. But come support this great community event that we have. I think we are really blessed in Yankton for all of the things that our community does to make it a special time of the year. And so that is one thing that's happening. Sunday morning, we have started The Heart That Grew Three Sizes. I've got my book right here, but you are not required to have a book. I do it for my own as I'm leading, but this is a family-style, intergenerational Sunday school opportunity where kids and adults come together and we're talking about Christian and Christmas themes within Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which is a really familiar story to so many of us. We started it last week. You do not have to be like, I can't go, I missed one. You can come. If you can only make it to one, you can come. The general structure is you come, we have a little bit of breakfast for you. Last week it was cinnamon and caramel rolls, and I have to say, that would be enough to get me there. And then we start together, everybody, adults and kids, doing opening activity, and then we split apart for a little bit. And Brooklyn, our new children's coordinator, is taking the kids and doing an activity with them and connecting the Bible story for them, while the adults stay with me and we watch a video from Matt Rawl, who wrote the book, and have a bit of discussion, just the adults, and then the kids come back in and we do something fun together. Last week, when the kids came back in, we played the game of telephone, sharing good news, and it was hilarious because we had adults, we had, 2 and 3-year-olds that were a part of it, and the message changes when you have a 3-year-old in the mix. But the kids were loving it. And I think it's really important and really great for the kids of our church to connect with more and more people because it's their community too. And this is a great way to be a part of that. So you don't need to have kids in order to come. We had a few that, came because without having children of their own. And I think, again, it's just a great opportunity. One of the things I realized is some of these parents I've never gotten to be in a small group with or a class with because they're teaching 605. Their kids are involved in things. And so unless we had childcare, they weren't able to do it. Well, this is an opportunity for them to get to do it and get to have some faith discussions. And so I'm just been super excited. I really loved how the first week went, and I'd love to have you check it out. I think it would be great. That's Sunday morning at 8:30 in Wesley Hall. And then we also have coming up the following week is our Children and Youth Christmas program. They're going to be leading worship on December 14th, and that's going to include their Christmas program. I love this Sunday. I love that we do this in Advent. Again, I think if you heard my sermon this past Sunday, you know how much it matters to me that children are a valid part of our community, and not only valid, but valued. And so this is one of the ways that we show that. And so I hope that you are planning to show up to support and to hear the Christmas story from these little voices, and they are putting a lot of work into this. We're going very like traditional this year, and I'm really excited to see it as a mom, as a pastor. And what I really would love is for all of our church to show up and to say, this is important. This is something worth being a part of, worth being a witness to, because not only is it a blessing to you, but you being there is a blessing to them. And so that's happening on the 14th. Again, we'll have that Sunday school program happening right before it. Now, this Sunday, the 7th, as well, we have another special thing happening, and that is our all-church Christmas choir. This is something that came about because someone in the church had a dream. This is something that they had seen in other places, and really their heart was toward our radio ministry in particular and wanting to offer something for them at Christmas that really was special and would be a blessing as they listened to the worship service. And so that's happening this Sunday. So you can come at 9:30 up to the sanctuary, and we're going to be singing the first Noel, and we're going to run through it then. And I think it'll be toward the beginning of the service, and you'll get more instructions. But really, it's just a fun opportunity. If you can carry a tune at all, we want you to be a part of it. If you are doing the Sunday school class, we end at 9:30, so you can go from that right up to the sanctuary. That's what I'm planning to do this week. But I hope that you would consider being a part of this. The more voices we have, I think the bigger of a blessing it will be. And if this is something that goes well, and I believe Jill also has some of the bell choir planning to play along with it as well. So it could be a really great opportunity to do something special during this Christmas season, and especially keeping in mind those who listen to our worship service. We have people who that is the way they connect with us. I'm always kind of shocked and amazed at when I'm meeting people around the community, they'll say, I listen to you on Sunday mornings. Maybe they listen as they're getting ready for their own church, or that is their church. But it is a vital part of our ministry that is really important. And so we want to do something extra special with them in mind. Now, again, you do have that opportunity to help support that ministry by sponsoring a service, and it's $45 to sponsor. It's a half an hour service that we broadcast Sunday mornings at 8:30, and it's a week behind. So what they hear is the previous week's a shortened version of our service from the week before. Those sign-up sheets are upstairs on Sunday mornings, or you can come to the church office during the week, and those can be done in memory of someone, in honor of something. You get to help, shape that, and then that gets put at the beginning of the service. There's a little announcement that before the service begins on our radio broadcast saying this service is sponsored by so and so in honor and memory of whatever. So I just want to put in a little plug for that. I love our radio broadcast. I'm so glad that we do that. So some other things that are happening. We have an Advent study happening on Tuesdays at noon. We're doing the Voices of Advent. Again, it's a video series. It's really going to be following our lectionary text, which we're doing a series in worship, but if you do devotionals that follow the lectionary, this study would be a great opportunity for you to kind of expand upon that and have conversation around that. And so I want to put that out there for you, that you would be welcome Tuesdays at noon. Women's Night Out is happening on Thursday, December 18th. That is going to be our Christmas party for Women's Night Out. Typically in the past, we've done an ornament exchange, had everyone brings kind of their favorite snacky food. We have some activities, games, things like that. It's just really a fun night. Women's Night Out. It's meant to be fellowship. That's going to be here at the church. I believe we do it at 6:30 on December 18th. I am also looking for someone who is planning to do their Christmas Eve worship at 7 o'clock on December 24th. That might be willing to light the Advent wreath for that service. So our Christmas Eve services this year are at 4:30 and 7. I have someone already signed up for the 4:30 service. The 7 o'clock service is the only one that's still open. So if you know your Christmas Eve plans and you're planning to attend that later service, would you let me know? And that way I can get that filled out and get you the readings and instructions. I think that would be awesome. So thank you in advance for that. Also, don't forget that we have Blue Christmas that will be happening on Tuesday, December 16th. That's going to be at the UCC Church. That's the one by the library. We share that service with the UCC Church, and this year, Trinity Lutheran is also going to be joining us. We're really excited that it's expanding and hopefully reaching more people. For whatever reason, I have just noticed that people feel a little weary this year. Like a lot of people are carrying some heavy loads, emotionally, spiritually, physically. This is the service for you. If you are feeling a little bit like Christmas just feels like a lot this year, I promise you that the Blue Christmas service is not just another added thing, but an opportunity for you to lay some of that down and to acknowledge that this is hard and feels heavy. And I often find in the years where I am struggling to feel joyous in this season, that service in particular gives me that space to name that, to grieve whatever it is I might be grieving, that allows my heart to be ready for Christmas Eve and for those celebrations. And so we've got some really great things planned for that. Julie Mooney is going to be providing some of the special music for that service, and that's a blessing in and of itself to listen to her sing. So I hope that you are willing and able to come to that. That will be again at the UCC Church, 7 o'clock on December 16th. So I ran through a lot of things there, but I did that because what I really want to focus on today is our angel tree. This is a mission of our church that has been going on, I think, for roughly 20 years that we've been doing the angel tree in this way. And so I want to talk a little bit about its history, about what it is, where it came from, how we got involved, who the angels are, for all of the things, and then encourage you that if you haven't picked up angels yet, to do so as soon as possible. So there are angel trees that various churches and organizations and businesses put out, and oftentimes angel trees are for families and especially children who don't have a lot of means. And so Christmas becomes a really tough time because kids are seeing other kids have all of these presents and all of these things, and they don't have that, and it can make Christmas pretty rough. And so one of the responses to that has been community members, church members rallying together and sponsoring children through these angel trees. And so our church is no different. We do that as well. But where ours goes is a little bit different. Our angel tree doesn't actually support kids in Yankton. There are many places in Yankton that are doing that work already, and we're so grateful. And you can seek those out if that is where your heart is, that that you want to bless and support a child here in Yankton. And we are so grateful for all the people who do that. It allows us to be a blessing in another need, in another place. So I just want to put that out there. But a little history. So our angel tree actually goes to a place called, or a community, a group called Milks Camp. And you're like, I've never heard of that. And I will be honest, before coming to Yankton and serving in this church, I had never heard of it either. So let me tell you a little bit about it and how we got connected. So many years ago, when Tom and Jane Gilmore, who are members of our church, when they moved to South Dakota, one of the things that Tom did in his work as a doctor was work out on the Rosebud Reservation. And he would drive out there every week and do work and got to know the community. And the United Methodist Church established on the Rosebud Reservation a mission outpost called Tree of Life. You might have heard of Tree of Life. We have had connections with Tree of Life. We've had people go out there and do work trips. Tom has served on the board of directors for them for many years. It's one of our two Native American mission outposts. The other one's up in North Dakota called Spirit Lake. And our Dakota's United Methodist Conference, when we do Shoebox Christmas across the conference, goes to these two mission outposts and covers the kids who live on the reservations. But the director out at Tree of Life noticed that there was a group that wasn't getting covered by the conference program. And that is because this group, they were tribal members, but they didn't actually live on the reservations. And so let me talk a little bit about why that is. So the reservation, and especially I'm going to talk specifically about the Rosebud Reservation. So we know Rosebud Reservation and we think of it and we think of Mission, South Dakota as kind of being the center of that reservation. But that reservation used to extend all the way to the Missouri River. But as more and more people started to settle, the reservation receded. It got smaller and smaller. I'm not going to comment a whole lot on the relationship between our First Nation tribes and the American government, but suffice it to say, not been great. Anyway, the reservation basically receded all the way to just being in Todd County. Now, the Native Americans who lived on the part of the reservation that was now no longer the reservation had basically a few options. One was to move onto the reservation land in Todd County. Two, to stay put. Those are or move elsewhere, but not on the risk. So they're still tribal members, but they no longer lived on a reservation, even though they hadn't moved. They uh, they stayed where they had settled, but the reservation moved out underneath of them a little bit. It actually reminds me a little bit, if you know the story of Rosa Parks and um, her whole sitting in the front of the bus, the actual events that happened where when she sat down on the bus, she was in an appropriate spot that had been segregated, but as the bus filled up, the bus driver moved the line, and so now she was sitting in a white only section and said, "You need to move." And she didn't move, right? She was tired. She had already sat down. She was sitting in the appropriate spot at that point. Um, and that's, when the whole thing started. But this is a case of the boundary moving, not the people. Anyway, so there's a whole group of tribal members who live, and it's not in one community, it's spread out in this land, in this space between Todd County and the Missouri River. And some of the people moved to a spot um, on land that was owned by one of the chiefs called Milks. And then that kind of area became known as Milks Camp. Now, Milks Camp is not an actual town, and it sort of has evolved that all of the people who are, again, members of the tribe that live outside of the reservation in this general area all relate together. And some of them are actually related. But they kind of come together, and there is like a community center and things. And they support one another and they're connected to each other. And they call that Milks Camp. And so these tribal members have every year for Christmas, they do a big Christmas potluck where they come together. And they're coming again from various communities, some, in Burke, some in Bone Steel, some just in rural areas. And they come together and they do this Christmas potluck. And it's at this Christmas potluck that our gifts are given to the children. And again, these children, they don't all go to the same school. Actually, it's up to 4 different school districts that these children are a part of. But they come together and they have this big event in December, and our gifts become a part of that. And it was the director of the Tree of Life who noticed that these kids, were getting overlooked because they weren't on the reservation, and invited our church to be a part of that Christmas potluck celebration and giving gifts. And so for the last 20 or so years, this is what we've been doing. They they give us a list of kids, and the kids range from babies to they kind of graduate out of the program when they're 18. And there have been people that have been following the same kids year after year. Um, and once we get the list of names, we create the angels. And then on the angels, you'll see a name, you'll see an age, a boy or a girl. And if sometimes we get more information than that. Um, and it ranges year to year how many we get. We had 78 names this year, and this is a larger year for them and for our church. And so so that's a little bit about the information of what is our angel tree about? Where did this come from? Who are these kids? And so it kind of just got connected through our connection with Tree of Life. And so uh, let's talk a little bit about what the guidelines are for angel tree gifts. So typically we say you need to spend between $20 and $30, around $25. If you're going to make a donation and to have someone else purchase gifts, on your behalf, if you're like, I want to participate in this, but I can't get out, the snow and ice is just not a good mix with me. $25 is kind of the expected donation in order to cover one angel tree gift. What we say is preferably to have one item of clothing and at least one toy or game. Now, with the item of clothing, what the general guideline is to size up at least one size based on the age of the child. So if you have a 6-month-old, you're looking at least 12-month clothing, all right, if not a little bit more. Because native kids tend to be just a little bit broader, a little bit, they run a little bit bigger, like bone structure wise, but also you want the clothes to be able to be used for longer. So if you have like a 6-year-old child, you're going to be looking at like a size medium 8 to 10 clothes. Again, it might be a little big on them now, but they'll be able to wear it for longer, which is, what you want. You don't want them to, and I think it would be terrible if they opened up a gift and they get excited about a shirt or, whatever, and then it doesn't fit. I think that would, you can always grow into things. It's really hard to shrink down, especially as a kid, right? That's not what our expectation. So one item of clothing and then one toy or game. Now, the way that I tend to do it is I get the one item of clothing and then whatever kind of is left in that $25 range, I use to pick up toys or whatever it is that I'm getting for that child. And so it can be more than one toy or game. Because we want to keep it around that $20 to $30 mark. We don't want one child to have something that, someone spent $10 on, and the next child to have something that someone spent $50 on. That doesn't create the kind of blessing that we're looking for. So we want to keep it consistent around that donation. Now, I will give you a little tip because I have done my angel tree shopping for this year, because I'm the kind of person that, like, as soon as I get the angel, I get the shopping done. Otherwise it gets lost, and it's not a good look. So if you're looking for things like, and especially I'm going to talk about kids, not so much babies, but kids and teenagers. We have a really great resource in Yankton in the 5 and below. Walmart has a lot of really great clothing items, and I would, direct you there. We want everything to be new items. But looking at toys and things, I was able to, with the budget that we had, get a couple of things rather than just one toy. And I don't know about you, but I know that my children would prefer typically to have 2 or 3 little items, more things to play with than just one item, because I would assume that most kids are like my kids, and having 2 or 3 means it captures their attention longer. And so I just throw that out there as an option. But again, you do what makes sense for you to do. Again, new items. And so we ask that you wrap the items before bringing them back. Gift bags are an option if wrapping presents is not your forte, and that's okay. We just ask that, like, tape the top so that none of the items fall out of the gift bag. And then you need to tape your angel to the present firmly, because that's the only way we know which present goes to which kid. That's the angels are what they use to be able to hand them out to the right kids. And so if the angel falls off, they're not going to know. And so make sure that you attach that angel really well to your gifts. If you have more than one box or something for one child, what I would ask is that those are attached together, because again, otherwise they're not going to know that these two things go to the same child. So those are just some guidelines for you. Now, our Angel Tree items are due back Wednesday, December 10th. It's kind of a quick turnaround this year. And sometimes that's just how it happens. We started with 78. I'm recording this on Wednesday morning, and we are down to like 22, 24, or something like that. So thank you already to those who have picked up angels and are doing that shopping and getting that done. Let's get these last 20 some angels into the hands of people who can be a blessing this year to the kids of Milks Camp. I'm so grateful for our church and the way that we've stepped up. And, I think taking on this particular thing, reminds me of Matthew 25 and the teaching that Jesus had, which is, when you do it for the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you do it for me. And these are kids that are kind of in this in-between place of, they're tribal members, but they're not on the reservation, getting, included in what's happening there so much. They're living in places where they might be the only tribal kid in their class or in their, where they're living. And it can feel challenging in a lot of ways. And so I love that that Tree of Life director saw and had a heart for those kids. I loved that when this was presented to our church leadership 20 years ago, that they also saw and had a heart for these kids and said, this is an important thing, and we want to be a part of it, and we want to do this. And that they really made it a personal thing, that, when we know the name of the child that we are shopping for, it makes my heart so happy. I have a tendency, the way that I like to do it, and again, partially it's because of the stage of life I'm in, but I always pick kids that are roughly, the same age as my kids. Partially because it's the easiest for me to shop for, because I know what my kids like, and therefore I have a pretty good gauge. When I went shopping for the Angel Tree this year and I brought the stuff home, I showed it to my kids, who were very distraught that this stuff wasn't for them, and I figured I was on the right track. My suggestions for teenagers, I think for me, the hardest to shop for are teenage boys, because the things that I know teenage boys like tend to be very expensive. But I tend to go for games and things like that for them. Teenage girls, my suggestion, my input would be looking at the like spa type stuff. So looking at face masks and body wash and fingernail polish and all that kind of really fun stuff. And when you get younger than that, you can really be looking at toys and things like that. And then babies, obviously cute outfits, warm, cuddly, stuffy things. So I really do hope you have some fun with it. I hope that you help us make sure that every child is covered this Christmas, and make sure that you get everything back by Wednesday, December 10th. I want to give a special shout out to Tom and Jane Gilmore. I had interviewed Jane Gilmore in the first year that I was here to learn more about it. And so the information that I have shared today comes actually from that interview. And so I'm just so grateful. They are the ones that are still taking these gifts out to Milks Camp for that Christmas potluck. Now, some have asked, can we get pictures of these kids? Can we see them opening? Can we go out? And we have tended to stay away from doing that, partially because that is their their celebration. That is their gathering. That is their time. And so we get the presents out there to them in time for them to be able to do it, but we let them have that time and space. And I know that it's coming from a place of just, wanting to see the impact that we have, but I need you to trust that we really do, that they are so grateful, and that these kids are so blessed because there are people in this world that have seen them and that care about them and are thinking of them at Christmas. And so again, I'm just putting that out there. Thank you for those who have already picked up your angels. And if you haven't yet, would you consider at least sponsoring one angel this year? Either by making a donation. And if I have to go do more shopping, I mean, it's a burden someone has to bear, right? I would be happy to do that for you. But let's make sure we get all these angels cared for this year. So that's what I've got. I hope that you are having a wonderful Advent season, that you're staying warm and safe in this winter weather. I hope to see you at the parade, and I hope to see you around at our various opportunities this Christmas. Until next time, God bless. Thank you for joining us for this episode of What's Going On, a video and audio podcast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. We'd love to have you join us for worship on Sundays at 10 a.m., either in person or via our live stream, which can be found at our website, www.firstumcyankton.org, or by searching First UMC Yankton on YouTube.